you all for coming to talk today. We're here to talk about The Secret Life of Girls. We have some students who have seen the show and some students who are actually actors in the show. And so we're going to talk a little bit about your perspectives and what all this has meant to you guys. So I want to start off by asking you, in your opinion, what is The Secret Life of Girls all about?
It's mainly about bullying and the consequences that it creates for everyone around it, in it, and really involved in it as well. So.
And I see a lot of different ways that bullying shows up in this show. It's not specifically always about one person bullying someone in a way that's obvious to everybody else. So what are some of the other ways that bullying shows up that are maybe more subtle in this show that you guys have just seen?
There's a lot of cyberbullying, and friendship is often used as a way to isolate other people instead of just being a connection between a group.
Absolutely. What else do you see?
There is a lot of subtle, so when Stephanie is talking to Rebecca, she purposefully withdraws information and uses that as a tool to keep Rebecca on edge and to maybe make fun of her because she doesn't have the information, so she is not in power, and as a way to hold her down and restrain her. And there's a lot of that in the play as well, with just a power dynamic between some girls and other girls and keeping them away from power.
So what is the definition of bullying then? Do you want to try that one?
Well, in the play, I did see a lot of people who were self-absorbed in their own world that didn't really care about how much they hurt other people's feelings.
I think that's very true. I think there's a lot of times in adolescent development, what we see is that kids are very insecure and they're trying to figure out who they are. They don't know who they are. And the good news, you guys, is you don't have to figure it out by the time you graduate from high school, I promise. A lot of grown-ups, we're still working on that. But there's this pressure to try to decide who you are and what kind of kid you are. And are you the cool kid or the athlete or the smart one or the popular girl or the pretty girl or whatever it is. And the reality is it's going to take time for all of us growing up to figure that out. But the second really important question that comes up in adolescence is, am I normal? And what is normal? Which one of the girls in this show were normal?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. They were all normal. But you can see where they're insecure, as was mentioned. Girls will be insecure sometimes, and boys. This applies to boys too. And when you're insecure and you don't know what's normal, and you're trying to fit in and be accepted, sometimes what looks normal is the girl that has the power, or the young man that has the power, or the person who has the most friends or the most power over their friends. And so we do see a lot of kids kind of stepping on each other's toes just to stay connected. Can you give me an example of some other problems that you see in the show that may be offshoots of bullying or may be separate from it?
There's some depression and self-harm.
Yeah,
And
and
also some
eating disorder. Yeah.
Yeah, depression is definitely a big thing or result of bullying. And it shows that bullying is not just, I make fun of you and you're below me. It's touching on an emotional level, and it can affect people for a really long time. And eating disorders and self-harm, those are also really big results of bullying.
Might be effects that last longer.
Yeah. I think the depression is where some of the other stuff, like the self-harm and the eating disorders, start, which is caused by the bullying. But when it gets to that point, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
Do any of you have any examples of things that you've seen in your own lives where something like this may have happened?
Every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Well, I do know one example of someone who was kind of abused by their parents, and then they started acting out in school and I guess showing that violence towards other kids and peers.
And so some bullying came out in that way. One of the things we know about bullying is that if kids could fix it with their own social skills, they would fix it themselves.
Yeah.
And that would be an awesome thing to happen. But a lot of times in middle school, high school, you don't have the life experience to know how to do it, or you don't have the means or the strength or the power to fix it. And sometimes adults need to get involved. In the story you're telling, what happened? Did this just go on and no one did anything, or did adults get involved in some way?
Well, after she started bullying other kids, I guess teachers kind of started to notice.
Teachers started to notice?
Teachers started to like talk to her about it, and other kids started to notice, and it started a lot of commotion at school. Counselors got involved, and it kind of affected everyone.
So it affected more people than just the bully and just the victim.
Yes.
But it sounds like there were some adults who were observing and able to step in and do something to help. And in the end, did the situation get better?
Yes.
I'd like to go back to her point and talk about bystanders and people who are observing these things. What is the impact of a bystander in a bullying situation?
If you know that something is wrong and you don't do anything, you're adding to the problem because you could have saved somebody who needed your help. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's really hard to be a bystander and watch all of it happen. And even if you work up the courage to say something about it, a lot of times you just get shut down immediately by the people who have the power, which are the bullies.
So do you know what those people are called who stand up and say something?
Upstanders?
Upstanders is one word. The other word that is used is the defender.
Oh, yeah.
And we think about a defender as, somebody sometimes with a superhero and a cape. And that's hard to do in real life because, as you said, the person who has the power will shut that person down. But being the second person to respond, being that person who counters the story that the bully is trying to control.
Yeah.
And question the power that that person has. When a defender questions that person's power by questioning the reality of what's being presented, sometimes you can interrupt an aggressive bullying situation just long enough to get the other people in the room to stop and think and go, oh. So that if someone is bullying someone and the victim has a response of feeling isolated, and especially even when the victim is not there. So someone says, oh, I don't want Rebecca to come to the mall. She's just such a suck up. She always wants to come with us to everything. The person who said that is assuming power and assuming the person listening isn't going to question them. But especially if there's more than one person in the room and that second voice says, I don't know, I think Rebecca's pretty cool, and we usually do have fun at the mall together, then that gives permission for yet the third person to come to Rebecca's aid and give another positive comment and shut the bully down.
I think it shows teens in the audience that this does not just happen to them. Either if they're a target or if they've seen this happening, it shows them that this is something that happens, and this is what can start to happen, the self-harm and the eating disorders and the depression. I think it really just lays it out for everyone and gives them a platform to talk about this and maybe prevent it from happening in their own lives.
Absolutely. And have any of you seen conversations that happen afterwards, maybe between teenagers and their parents after watching this together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does anybody have any examples or stories of where these conversations have gone?
Some of the sweetest things that happen is you often see like a mom and a daughter watching the show, and at the end they're like hugging each other and they're like having a conversation as they walk out.
And the fact that it allowed them to reach a deeper understanding and to be able to open up to each other, because it's hard to talk to your parents about stuff like this. But the fact that this play made it easier for them to discuss it really made me happy. It's just so important to know that you're not alone and that everyone goes through this. I mean, I've gone through this. I'm sure we've all gone through this. And to know that there are other people going through what these characters go through, it's just so encouraging.
Thank you guys for sharing all of this with us today, and I want to thank Dallas Children's Theater for making this type of programming available.